this journey into truth. It's not an easy way of living, you know, because we're called to be truthful all the time, you know. It's like the usual stories that people tell themselves. We know they're not the ultimate truth, you know. So, you know, when you get angry at somebody, somebody who's not on a spiritual path or a path of truth will just blame the other person for being such a so-and-so, or for having done what they did, you know, and how dare they. Or when you're sad, you know, and you're not on a path, you just blame the other person for having hurt you, or for having disappointed you, or for having let you down, you know. So this is like, you know, life is much easier when it turns in these inner circles. I mean, it's also very painful, it's suffering, but it's kind of predictable in a way, you know. So when there's an inner knowing that this is, you know, this isn't ultimately true, it's painful, but it's not ultimately true, then we're called to really to be open to what does arise in the moment, because, you know, we're called to be open to that because it has arisen in us, and when it arises, it needs attention, but it needs a certain kind of attention, you know. It needs an attention, a welcoming that knows it's ultimately not true, and yet in this moment it's true, and it needs to be honored. You know, it's like a welcoming that comes from a deeper place, a place of truth, a place of love, a place of simple openness that is open to everything that arises, and that accepts that if it's arisen, it needs attention, you know. Rumi calls that the guest house. You probably have come across that poem where he describes the guest house as our human, you know, our human guests that arise, you know, and that are welcome because they come as guests. And, you know, in the Middle East, every guest is welcome, totally welcome. Nobody's turned away at the door saying, "You're just telling a story, you know, you're not welcome." No, every guest is welcome. Middle Eastern hospitality, you know, that's the truth of our being. Whatever arises is welcome because it's arisen, because it's knocked at our door. And when we're in that openness, It doesn't have to be a joyful welcome, sometimes we don't feel joyful about what's arisen. We don't have to be, but we have to be willing to say, okay, come in. I'm here. Let me feel what's here for me. Let me give you my attention, my openness, my welcome, my willingness to love you as you've arrived. My willingness to respond as it's needed. Yeah, that's how awareness, loving awareness manifests, that's what it is, that's the nature of it. Rumi knew that. And the guest house is a beautiful description of that. And we can come to know that. And then life gets much more peaceful because we don't have to resist anything anymore.